Hello everybody, this is John Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're back with another of our 5-Minute Histories videos. And today we're going to talk about Henrietta Lacks and Turner Station. And I am pleased to be out here on this beautiful afternoon. I'm even more pleased because I'm going to be joined by two folks from the Henrietta Lacks Legacy Group, Dr. Adele Newson-Horst and servant Courtney Speed, both of whom were instrumental in helping get that organization going. And this might be like the trifecta, winning the trifecta at Pimlico, because I'm pleased for a third reason, and that is if you're following along real time, in just a few weeks on September 18th, Saturday, September 18th, we're going to be doing a walking tour, an in-person walking tour here, and we'll put some information up about that. But before I turn it over to our friends from the Henrietta Lacks Group, I want to just say a few words about Turner Station. In 1880, this area was kind of swampy, and a gentleman named Joshua Turner, a businessman, purchased it. His plan was to sell guano, seagull guano, make some money. But across the creek, pretty soon after he bought it, shipbuilders started to come in, and then the company that eventually became Bethlehem Steel came in. And Bethlehem Steel built housing for its employees. These were big employers, and the area started to change pretty quickly. By the early 1900s, there were folks flocking here. Bethlehem Steel had built housing mostly for whites only, a small section for Black Americans, people who are coming to Baltimore for the jobs, but not enough. And a lot of Black folks were left to fend for themselves in Dundalk and Middle River at a time when those neighborhoods, those communities were very much segregated. So some of those families started to settle here in the land that was Turner's, beginning pretty early on. By about 1900, a little before 1900, a gentleman, let me make sure I get his name right, Anthony Thomas, persuaded Turner to start selling lots to the folks who were more or less already living here. And that's how Turner Station as a residential community got its start. By 1900, and it started to boom. By 1900, it had its first church, St. Matthew's, went on to have about a dozen churches. It had a school, a grocery store, a doctor, and a dentist. By the 1940s and 1950s, things were really booming. In addition to that, it had about 10,000 people living here. It had a senior high school, an amusement park, and a beach, a 2,000-seat stadium for a Negro League baseball team, a 700-seat movie theater with air conditioning. That was a big deal back then. 3 taxi companies, and a nightclub called the Adams Cocktail Lounge that drew superstars like Red Fox and Pearl Bailey. A lot of the families here worked either in the shipyards across the creek or at Bethlehem Steel, but not everybody. A few notables coming out of Turner Station: Arthur Hancock, one of the Buffalo Soldiers; Milton Holmes, a pilot with the Tuskegee Airmen. My congressman, Kwasi Mfume, came from here, as did Robert Curbeam, a NASA astronaut who went into orbit several times. And that was not the Jeff Bezos kind of in orbit. This was the real orbit that he went into and piloted. Finally, before turning it over, I'm here in Turner Station. When Henrietta Lacks moved in about 80 years ago, this was all brand new, designed by a Black architect named Hilyard Robinson, who did work around the country. He did multiple buildings at Howard University in Washington, D.C. He built housing at Willow Run Bomber Plant, and he designed Sharp Field, which was where the Tuskegee Airmen practiced. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Adele Newson-Horst to talk a little bit about Henrietta Lacks and the Legacy Organization.
Okay, thanks, John. For those who don't know the story of Henrietta Lacks, she and her husband and 2 children came up from Virginia to Turner Station seeking employment at Bethlehem Steel, as many did in those days. This is 1941. And 1951, unfortunately, she had cervical cancer, an aggressive strain. It killed her. They took the cells without the family knowing, meaning they, Johns Hopkins, and they discovered that it continued to replicate. First time in history, human cells replicated continuously outside the human body. That's why they call it the immortal Henrietta Lacks, because her cells continue to replicate. The first disease they used the cells to cure or find vaccine for was polio. You also must know that all the COVID vaccines that were developed used her cells. So we owe a great debt to Henrietta Lacks, and the community of Turner Station is also important in the story. And so I'm looking forward to seeing you guys come to Turner Station and take this tour with us. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Servant Courtney Speed and moved to Turner Station in 1960 when I married the most mannerly man, John Emmett Speed Jr. And in this marriage, I worked at a beauty salon where we had several clients. And being there, BBC came and asked me about Henrietta Lacks. When he did, I did not know about her and her miraculous cells that were used not only here in Turner Station, but now we know they were from Canada, and then later on, a lady came from Australia, all over the world. So what we're endeavoring to do is to let the whole world know about her cells, and I learned much of this from her daughter, Deborah. So when you ever come to Turner Station, we will be so glad to give you a tour to enlighten you more and more about the immortal cells of Henrietta Lacks that is not only living since 1951 when she died at Johns Hopkins, but also they replicate. So they will be here forever. So come and visit us whenever you need to know about the immortal, miracle, medical mother of the world, Henrietta Lacks.